and welcome to the MOOBment. I'm the creator of the MOOBment and your host, Laurie, and I'm glad you're here with us today. We've had a lot of exciting things happening at the MOOBment. Maybe the most exciting is the MOOBment book, which is underway, and we are looking for submissions from our MOOBs out there, all the information on our website. And if you want to check that out and tell us your stories, we would love to hear them and potentially incorporate them into the MOOBment book. I'm going to remind you as well to follow us on Instagram at The MOOBment and on Facebook. And join me today as we welcome a very special guest. Her name is Bridget KerMorris. We often talk on the show about toddlers, about becoming new moms, about having little ones, and also about the letting go years and the empty nest stage. And we're leaving out a bit of a gap, a large gap. And Bridget is actually a specialist in that gap that we call maybe the middle school years or the tween years or the teen years. So Bridget, welcome. Why don't you tell us, first of all, a little bit personally about you, and then we can go into your professional side as well.
Oh, yes, Laurie Ann, I'm so thrilled to be here. And by the way, that's amazing about your book. That was so exciting to hear.
Very exciting.
So I hope
Be
that
on the lookout.
People submit, and it sounds like a wonderful thing. What you're doing here is really special and really important because it's essential that people have community. So yes, my name is Bridget KerMorris. I'm a mom of 7 kiddos. They range in age from 6 to 20. And I have 4 boys and 3 girls. So my oldest is a 20-year-old son, and down to my 6-year-old is a daughter. But yeah, they kind of run as a pack. They don't kind of like separate out by the boys and the girls. But yeah, it's been such a joy to be raising boys. I just absolutely love it. So this is very cool what you've created here. I live in San Diego, California. And is it okay if I go into my professional side?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to let everybody know that you're a parent coach, but why don't you tell us also about your educational background and let's talk about how you got there and then what you're doing.
Yes. Okay. Well, I am a parent coach for parents of middle schoolers. So it is a really, really kind of niche area. And I saw a need out there because a lot of talk out there lumps middle schoolers with teenagers. And of course, some middle schoolers are teenagers and they will all, eventually be teens. But there's something really different and special and such an opportunity in these middle school years. So professionally, I'm a lawyer. I have a law degree from Stanford. And then I went back to school and got a marriage and family therapy degree. So I'm a marriage and family therapist. See couples, families, individuals, do trauma work. And I have an account on Instagram. It's Bridget.parentcoach. And that's where I really just talk to parents of middle schoolers. And right now I'm parenting my 4th middle schooler. So one of my sons is in middle school right now. He's in 7th grade, just finishing up his 7th grade year. And yeah, my message overarchingly is, oh my goodness, parents, like you do not need to lose your kiddos during these middle school years. Yes, things will change, but middle schoolers so much want to be close and connected to their parents. And that's what I mean by there's an opportunity in these years to really like establish that bond in a different way, right? Because it's like we can be bonded to them when they're really little and then things start to change. And I think so many parents feel like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my kid, but I want to reassure parents that research tells us, like attachment research, like, yeah, these kids want to be close to us. And so there's just like shifts we can make and tools we can use, communication really, that helps keep that rock solid.
It's amazing because I think my oldest is now 37 and my youngest is 32. So it's been a while since my kids were in middle school, but I think back and I think that may be that time. Let's see, we're talking middle school age. So we're talking about ages, like 11 to 14 in that kind of range, I think. And that may be the first time we experience a little bit of that letting go, a little bit of that child kind of gaining a little bit of his own independence. And while they're doing a transition into that tween, teen, middle school years, we're doing our own transition and our own letting go and trying to figure out that balance. So I guess my first question to you is, how do you figure out that balance? How much to hold on to little boy? How much to give a little bit of rope and leniency to your child while still being able to be present in their life?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that. And you're very wise because you talked about how we as parents, and I'm a mom, you're a mom, so especially moms, we really have to do kind of like our own work. I guess we call it, like, as a therapist, I'd say our own work, or just kind of our own soul searching of like, oh my gosh, like things are changing for me too. And I think that is so key because one thing that surprises middle school parents is when I really help them see how much our boys are still little boys. And there are so many sweet moments when we really look at them. And there are these moments where you can start noticing, like, oh, he's like kind of hanging out in the kitchen when I'm there, or, he like wants to tag along when I'm going to get gas or something. And so there are these moments, they just might look different, right? Because there's this self consciousness that comes up during middle school. And I think so much is made of the independence that middle schoolers want. And that's not untrue, right? Like, of course, they're stretching towards independence. Eventually, they're going to be adults. But I think what a lot of parents don't realize and really aren't told by experts out there is the independence, like, it's actually kind of intimidating for our middle schoolers too. And for these boys, I think especially because of, the cultural narrative out there too of like, oh my gosh, eventually you're going to have to, get a job that maybe pays a lot of money and supports other people. And there's so much pressure there that if they can come home and actually kind of like relax into the little boy that they still are, really. I mean, I consider this is still a very young age. College is several years off, right? Like 6 to 7 years off. And so we do have a lot of runway there. But yeah, as moms, so much of like when we see them reaching for independence, it's like our own anxiety about what we're worrying about.
And it took me a while to realize that, because fast forward a little ahead, even at college and their 20s and their 30s and beyond, you still as a parent see the little boy in them, and occasionally that comes out. And when they have kids of their own, you see that in them being a parent. So I think that they always have that little mom son relationship where if you give them that communication skill with you and that foundation with you, when things get rocky at any stage, they're going to maybe lean on you throughout life. So you're basically, I guess what you're saying is you're developing that at the stage of where they're starting to really feel the need for some independence.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you're awesome to point out that, yeah, like you can have this throughout life. And I want to really share that hopeful message with middle school parents because
Okay.
it can feel like a loss. There can feel grief, these feelings of grief in middle school. And I understand that, but I think parents have more power than they think they do to
Mhm.
really form a relationship that's going to be close, like, potentially for a lifetime. And there is a way to do that. And, you really want home for these boys to be a place where they can be like silly and funny and they can cry and like all of these things that maybe, and to have these conversations too about like culturally the messages they're getting. But yeah, I think it's so important. And I feel like as moms, a lot of us carry anxiety. That's a very normal thing, and all humans have anxiety, but we really worry about seeing our kids get hurt. And so when we see the independence, because I can tell you for sure, like I said, I have a seventh grade son. So I love that he's independent about his homework. Like,
Mhm.
he just, in particular, of my kids, is good at getting that done. So like I applaud that independence, right? But then we as parents can get more nervous about like, oh, he wants to bike really far with his friends. So I think also looking at like all the facets of independence that are coming up. And when you have this like rapport with your kid or like a, good communication, solid skills with them, you can say like, actually, I'm not really feeling great about you biking that far away from home or biking when it might get dark. I really recommend parents like check in with themselves. Is this my anxiety like taking over, or is this actually just like a real concern? Like, I'm the steady leader here, right? But I love it. In middle schoolers, you can start having real conversations with them. They don't get to make the final decision, right? But you can bring them into the conversation.
So I hear what you say, and communication, I think, at any stage is the key, open communication. But a lot of times kids that age, boys especially, it's hard to communicate with them. You get the, well, how was school today? Fine. What's new? Nothing. You get a lot of that from boys especially. So I know with little ones, we talk about reading books at bedtime, and that's the time when you can use books and stories to bring out communication. But as they get older, you probably have a little less of that. So what's the best way to communicate and set up that open line of communication so they feel safe talking to you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that you asked this because this is where I think parents can really start noticing. Yes, like absolutely side by side tasks, um, car rides, I think are just a great place to, they might open up on their own timeline. And, I kind of get it after school when you're like, how was school? And they say, fine. It might indeed have just been fine. Right. And then I know us as parents later, we find out that there was like, I don't know, like a fight in the cafeteria. And you're like, how could you not have told me? But I think by the time your kiddo maybe gets in your car or gets off the bus, they're on to like, I'm home, I want to relax, like I have this to get done, right? And so I know as a parent, it can feel hurtful. Like it can be like, oh, they don't want to talk to me. And so I try to help, parents shift how they're looking at it. And so, I know some people advise like, don't even ask, how was your day? Like I ask my kid, how was your day when I pick him up? And if he doesn't say much, that's okay. Like um, I don't let it hit me too hard, but I do try to find other times in the day. And so, yes, like going on a car ride. Hey, can you help with dinner here?
Mhm.
Or maybe, he has a chore to do together. A big thing is he is better at technology than me. So like, can you help me with this? Like having them teach us something or, what music have you been listening to lately? Right. There's actually better questions that we can ask. Like I said, I have no problem. I would never advise a parent to not say how you doing, right? Like that's an okay greeting. But there's also really cool questions you can ask just to get hey, did you see anyone do anything really funny today? Or yeah, like what's the vibe at school lately? Like anything like that might get more of a response because also when you think about it, how was your day is a very like administrative question, or maybe they don't even really know how to answer it. But when you ask a curious question, like yeah, like what was the vibe today? You're really like telling your son, I want to know you. Like, I want to know, like, you're a person worth getting to know. You're a person who has like thoughts that are worth learning about. And that is like such a great message for your son to get in middle school.
It's interesting. I hear what you say, and I never really thought about turning the tables, which is a lot of what I'm hearing you say. Because I think about it, and sometimes I'll come home after a long day, and my husband or my son or anybody will say to me, well, what did you do today? Or how was your day? And I'm exhausted and I really don't want to go into it. That part of my day's over. Let's move on, kind of thing. So maybe turning the tables a little
Mm.
bit and understanding how he might feel as opposed to just feeling it's you. Maybe that's part of it. And like you say, thoughtful questions. We talk about intentional parenting, like think before you ask and, be intentional about what you're asking. So I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, I think when you talk about intentional parenting, there's a lot of values infused into that too.
Hmm.
And so it's not like, oh, be scared about what to say, which I know is not like we're not scared telling parents to be like worried about what they say, but also if you ask something, you get feedback that like this is not received well or they don't answer much. Like you have data then, right? Like
Right.
this is in any relationship, you kind of need to get data about how they perceive you, how they feel about what you're asking. And yeah, like it's really, really intentional. And I think what I wanted to say about values is yeah, like how do I hope my son feels when he sees me at the end of the day? And I know for me, one of my values is that for the people who are really important in my life, I want them to know that I delight in them. That like makes me like a little tearful to say, Laurie Ann, I'm a crier. If I'm crying on you, but like that's one of my deep, deep values. Like that I want the people I care about, we might not always get along 100% of the time, but to know that they're important to me.
Right.
It's a delight for me to see them, that I want to know more about them, all of those things. And when I go to that place, then I can ask more curious questions. And also, yeah, like if they're not having it, like that's okay. They can have the space too. And
Right.
we'll always just reconnect later.
It's interesting. I think for me, when I think back, I want to be their safety net. I want to be the person who, when things are joyous, when things crumble, that they know there's no judgment, that I care, that they are safe coming to me and telling me things and confiding things in me. And how great is that in your life to have somebody like that? I mean, what a blessing to be able to know you've got support. I mean, think about the risks you can take, the chances you can take when you know that there's a stopgap, there's a person, there's a fallback that, I got you no matter what.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, I think that's kind of what we're trying
Yeah,
to
well, we
establish.
know that from attachment research, Laurie. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, go ahead.
But we know that from attachment research, parents who can be a safe haven and a secure base. I mean, just both of the things that you said. A safe haven, you can come to us when things are hard, when the world feels terrible, and secure base, I know that I can always go back there. So then I can fly away, right? And come back. And that's the secure base. And so like both of those things, that's when we talk, it's very like buzzy to talk about attachment, right? Avoiding and anxious and secure. And like that's secure attachment. And for parents, I also want to reassure them. And I would feel like this is really important. Parents who provide a secure base are attuned to their kids, like kind of like meet their kids' emotional needs 30 to 50% of the time, like that's passing, more than passing. Like good parents, like they don't always get it right, right? We like ask the question at the time when they didn't want us to ask them a question. We can't read their minds.
Right.
So, but like, you kind of get to know your kid. And if 30 to 50% of the time, this is what the research tells us, you're pretty much like meeting them where they're at, like helping them with their emotional needs, you're doing great. And that's going to form that secure
Right.
bond for mental health and beyond.
Right. And, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves about being the perfect parent. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I didn't do that right. I didn't phrase it right. I think that, I don't know whether it's society or what it is that we do. And as women, especially to ourselves, that, we beat ourselves up. We don't have to be perfect. We have to keep reminding ourselves of that, and that it's okay. If your heart is in it and, you go back and do it better the next time, I think it's okay. It doesn't have to be right 100% of the time. It's your intention that really counts, and they know it. They feel it. They know it, I think.
Totally. Yeah. Something I say often to parents is your kid doesn't want me as their parent. They want you, right? Like
Right.
kids really, and especially middle school, is such an opportunity because they really, really love their parents. And that I know a lot of middle school parents I've worked with are struggling in their relationship with their kids at the time. And that's a hard thing for them to take in, but it is true. Children are born to attach to their closest caregivers, to their usually their parents, right? And they want to be close. They want this relationship to feel good. And they actually, the middle schooler themselves, even when it doesn't look like it, they are actually trying really hard to kind of get it right with us. But they also have so much going on inside. There's so many changes during the middle school years. And so I like to tell parents, your middle schooler is always asking, silently, like, am I likable? They're asking this of the world. Am I likable? And will people come back to me? Or like, will people be okay with me even when things are hard, even when I'm prickly? And so they're asking that, like, they're kind of scanning the world for like, am I likable? Will people, stay in relationship with me if I'm in trouble? But they're really asking that of their parents. And so
Right.
when they can come home, and even if there's a disagreement, you guys don't get along, that is okay as long as the parent just always comes back. There's, of course, we always have repair, but even just like, hey, you're important to me. Like that didn't go great before. Like, you're really important. Let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
That really means a lot to middle schoolers and is very reassuring for them.
Yeah. I think the hard part as a parent, when you look at it as a parent, is trying. I know a lot of parents who really just want to be pals with their kids. They want that great relationship. They want their kids to think they're cool and to like them. And finding that line between being a parent and being a friend, or maybe that's not so much of a line. Maybe you are the parent, but I think some people have an issue with that. You want to be the cool parent. You want to feel that you understand them, but sometimes you just have to tough love and be the tough parent. So, uh, do you find there's like a fine line, or do you just lean toward being the bad guy sometimes, and that's just the way it is?
Yeah, well, and I think it's really tricky because especially for people who grew up in homes where there wasn't what we call secure attachment, where it wasn't very peaceful, then I think what is often brought into their parenting space is they think peaceful all the time, like kind of equals success, right? And like having my kid like me, like we should, because some people grew up in a way that like they really didn't get along with their parents, or their parents didn't understand them, or ignore them, or like any manner of thing. And so in their parenting, they're like, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be. I don't even think parents are like, oh, I want to be a cool parent, right? I think most parents are like, they do want to be the authority figure, but they're like, oh, if I'm like nice to my kid and explain it to them, then the kid will be like, okay, no problem. And that's where, you really want to help parents understand that actually your job is to hold this steady line for the things that are really important. And your kid's job is to push against it. Like they'll push against it.
Right.
And you can trust that you have the bond there, right? Because you're respectful with your kid, right? You let them tell you why they don't like it. Like that's okay to bring that in. And it's okay for people in a family to disagree sometimes. And that's where I think people fall into this kind of a trap, right? Of like, oh, I need it if I don't get along with my kid, if they don't like me, right? And that's why I want to reassure middle school parents, your kid, they like you. It's the decision they don't like, but they like you. They want to be good with you. And so again, we can like lean into our values. One of my values is keeping my kids safe, but also letting them tell me what their side of it is, being respectful, not calling them names, right? All of those things, right? So we can lean into our values there.
Right. So let's talk about the age. So we're talking about, we said 11 to 14.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think it's a little scary, especially with boys and moms, because they're going through things emotionally, physically, academically, all kinds of things going on. What conversations for boys that age should moms or parents be having specifically with those kids? Like what's important to talk about?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to immediately bring up the most tender one, which is pornography. Absolutely. At this age, pornography needs to be brought up. And the framing here is really important because one, I think it's important to let boys know that you're kind of a target here. And this is true of other things too in our society. Like young boys this age, girls are the target of what, like Sephora. I don't, different things, but like they're like pornography, really sadly, but like, and I don't know that much about the pornography industry, but it is to the pornography industry's benefit to get young boys hooked on this. And so if there's shame around it, like if parents don't talk about it at all, then that is really leaving an opening in your son's life where he could either find it himself, his friends might show him. The average age that a boy is exposed to pornography is 11. And so I really think it's such an important conversation. And part of that nuance, Laurie, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it because you have grown sons, is like, if you see something and you feel a certain way about it, it doesn't make you bad, right? Like some things are meant to like hijack your brain, really talking to them in a way where they don't feel the need to hide it from you because they are developing into people who are, going to be grown-ups eventually and like have a lot of feelings, and puberty's kind of about that. And so those kind of conversations, really non-shaming, but also like, I would like you to come to me. Like we can talk this through, you're too young to be exposed to that. So we need to figure out like a plan. Those
So do
kind of
you bring it
conversations.
up, or do you assume at that age that they are exposed in some way? And if you're supposed to be proactive about it, and they may be not exposed at that point at 11, 12 years old, how do you go about doing that? And on that note, what red flags are you looking out for, whether it's pornography or other things that tell you we need to talk about this?
Yeah. So I bring it up. And so that's just something that I think is important, but it's not a one-time conversation. And my son is never happy that I brought it up, but he's not furious either. Because part of being online, and even if your kid doesn't have a phone or an iPad, they probably have a Chromebook if they're at traditional school. And so so part of being online, right, is we need to have these conversations. And I think that's just like a really helpful opening. I would probably make it really short initially just like, hey, sometimes people put images or videos out there that are meant to catch people's attention. And unfortunately, like sometimes they really are trying to get kids your age looking at this stuff. So you don't even need, initially to talk about the explicit nature of it. Do you ever see anything online that makes you feel weird or anything that you're like, why did this come up? Just starting to talk about that. And they may say no. And you can just kind of like workshop it from there. But, like, I'd like you to come to me if you do. A red flag type situation, I think, would be a boy who's withdrawing from you emotionally. And that it's nuanced, right? Because they are becoming more independent, solving more of their own problems. But I think if, your son used to talk a lot and then is talking quite a bit less or seems almost depressed or sad, at this age, pornography really, it can feel like kind of exciting for their bodies and very scary and overwhelming because that's such a scary feeling for anyone who gets into a pattern of we maybe probably not define it as addiction, but it can feel that way, right? Like any of us, like if we like try something that feels exciting for our body, but we kind of know it's bad for us. So I really worry about the boys who really don't have anyone to come to because they worry that their parents would be mad at them or that they're a bad kid or something. And it's so sad because most parents tell me, oh my gosh, I would want my son to come to me. And there's such a disconnect. That's why I really recommend it's, in my opinion, being overt about it. Like, by the way, if you ever come to me and tell me that you've seen something, you're not in trouble for it. We're going to figure this out together. It's so important. But I do worry about young boys kind of getting caught up in this cycle where maybe their bodies do feel a little like interested in it, but that feels really yucky inside to feel like you can't control getting yourself off.
So it comes down to the communication again and just having that communication. And I love what you said about finding a way in that doesn't trigger defensiveness. It's more if you see things online, we allow you to spend time online and there are consequences and you may come across this and that. And it sounds like a very natural way to go about it. But let me ask you another question, which comes to my mind in hearing what you say, which is if there's a dad in the picture, if there are brothers, maybe older brothers, many of our listeners, many boys in their homes, older brothers. I think a lot of times moms feel like this is dad's realm. The boys can relate more to their dads on certain things. Do you take matters into your own hand? Do you punt them? How do you feel, or does it depend on the situation?
I think it really depends on the situation. I'm sure you also have like a lot of single moms listening too. And it's in our society, really, with the age dads are now, like dads of middle, the average age, right? Those dads really, some of them are very skilled at talking to their sons about this, and some really don't. And so I would absolutely recommend that any mom talk to her partner and say, hey, I think this could be really meaningful coming from you. But if that's not happening, this and in other topics, puberty and things like that for boys, if the man in this son's life isn't doing it, because a lot of times dads, I don't think that the dads disagree that it's important to talk about. I think they just don't, it either slips out of their mind, they don't make time for it, like it just doesn't happen. And I think it's important that it does happen. And so that's what, that's putting another thing on moms. So you and I could talk a lot about the mental load that moms have. But yeah, if the dad's not doing it, I definitely think the mom should at least bring it up. You guys could talk all together. But I mean, it's so valuable, right? Like I've never been a teenage boy. Like it's so, there's only so much I can say. And I certainly don't know what the experience is like. But I think moms, even if we feel like, oh, I shouldn't have to take this on, you should still be involved, at least in talking to your partner and being like, you really need to address this.
Yeah, because actually, even though, yes, we were not young boys ourselves, moms, I mean, hopefully we are changing this going forward with the next generation, but moms, I think women in particular tend to be more communicative and tend to be more comfortable bringing up and talking about certain things than maybe men of our generation. So maybe we'll bring our young sons up to have the vocabulary to be able to have those conversations for the next generation. But so maybe if we look at it like, I don't have to have been in his shoes to have the conversation. I have the communication skills and I'm going to take that into my hands and look at it that way and make the moms a little bit more comfortable about taking it on.
Yeah. Well, Laurie Ann, it just made me think it dovetails with what you're talking about parents maybe sometimes wanting to be friends with their kids. Because, by the way, like bringing up this topic, like I don't think our sons are going to be like, "Thank you so much." I mean, I have talked about this with my 7th grader. He's not thrilled anytime I bring it up, and sometimes it really does cause some silence in the car, right? And we've talked about this several times because I do have touch points where I have brought it up. We've had a more robust talk, but I bring it up from time to time. Have you seen anything? Feels weird. Um, but I really just had to say to him, like, this is kind of like the price of having access online is that
Right.
I need to be able to check in about this. But like, I hear you, like, I hear your feedback that like you feel like it's weird when I bring it up, but as a parent, you kind of need to steady yourself. And so I would suggest to parents ahead of time to really be like, whew, like, why am I doing this? Like, what's my value in this? And I know for me as a parent, my value is uh, kind of what you said before. Like, I want to be the person that they can come to when things get hard or
Right.
weird. Um, and I also want to be really clear that I will not shame them about stuff. And I think what's really helped me, Lorianne, is being a trauma therapist because when I sit across from clients, we're reprocessing their trauma. I do use a form called EMDR. Um, Typically they're not telling me about the event, the traumatic event itself. It's more about I didn't have someone to talk to, or everyone told me it was my fault, or people ignored it. It's typically about the relationship surrounding the event, not the event itself. So it really gave me this viewpoint of we need to be very clear because I can't tell you how heartbreaking it is for me when I meet a kid and I meet parents and the parents are like, this is the coolest kid in the world. He's just really struggling with anxiety or whatever. And I meet the kid and the kid's like, oh my gosh, my dad hates me. I'm such a problem for the family. Like it's really sad, right? Because these parents, they do just like adore this child but because they clash, right? Because that can happen,
Right.
neither of them has been over, and it's not the responsibility of the kid ever. You know, there's a power differential in a parent child relationship, but the parents have not been clear. Like, yes, we're having problems sometimes, and we need the behavior to change and shift, and we're going to spring on that. But like, we like you so much. Like, we think you're a great kid. Like, that's why we want to help you with this. And so, I really, really encourage parents to be very clear with their sons about how much they like them how important they are to them and like we'll figure this out together no
Can you
matter
say
what.
that one more time? Because I think that is the takeaway here is really expressing overtly to your child how much they matter, how much they are important to your life, to the dynamic of your family, their worth, their value. Say it again. Let's make everybody stop and hear it this time. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just want everyone on here. This is like permission slip written out and handed to you. Like, please be overt, like as mushy as you want to be. And by the way, like your kid doesn't have to think you're cool. So they might be like, Mom, I know you like me so much. And I'm just like, I would say that most of my children would say, my mom's obsessed with me, right? Because I just like in a funny way, right? Because I'm just like, I just think you're so cool, like how your brain works, whatever. And so, yes, parents, I want you to know please, please tell your sons that they're likable, that they're so cool. You find this interesting about them. You're curious about who they are, and that no matter what, whatever they bring to you, you guys will figure it out together. You're never going to push them away.
Yeah.
It is really striking to me how children just don't naturally have that understanding. Like, we can't expect children to really attachment feels kind of precarious to kids sometimes, which is so sad because the parents, I think almost every parent you and I would talk to, Lorianne, would be like, oh my gosh, I love my kid so much. I would be there in a heartbeat for anything. Kids don't just know that by osmosis.
Well,
They
hopefully we
need
are
to hear it
changing
from
that
you.
for the people who are listening today because you're right. Anything else we talk about is secondary to that because we can get through anything. We can talk about anything. We can get through a tough time when we know that we're valued and that exactly what you said, that we're cared about and that we matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Other things I really did want to talk to you about, and we don't have a ton of time here, and I want to go through a letter that one of our listeners asked me to ask you about. I was thinking things along the lines of gaming, screen time,
Mhm.
phones. How much should we be concerned, or how much should we limit it? Um,
So I think that YouTube is the hardest place. I think that is just the place where if you're going to limit something, maybe besides social media, I think YouTube, or at least like talking to your sons about what they're seeing on YouTube. Because I also think a lot of the ideas that boys are getting are from these really affable YouTubers. And I don't want to like criticize them, but it's there's a lot going on there with short form videos and things like that. So I do think middle school parents should be concerned about it, and it should be a topic. But again, really, what's going to give people in the end, Laurie Ann, is to say like, you're not bad because you get sucked in. Because I think as parents, we can be like, oh my gosh, you're always on that. Like, I can't get you off. And they get upset. And instead, it's like, that really draws you in. Like, it's designed to do that. And also, you know, if you have a kid with ADHD, it's actually really hard to switch tasks, especially when one is so stimulating. But I think for all kids, it's really hard to switch away from gaming or whatever. And so I think just having a plan, timers can help. Some kids push back against that. Giving them a warning is okay, but that also puts a lot of pressure on parents to always remember. So that's something that I like to offer this to parents. If gaming is becoming a problem, or time on the phone or whatever, yes, you can put limits on it, but I would also suggest doing what I call moving to the side, like a whiteboard exercise. This is my pretend whiteboard, where I would say to my son, hey, buddy, like, we've been arguing a lot about your phone, for example. And I want to say sorry, because I think I really have made it sound like I think that you're lazy or something like that. You know, I would apologize for however I've been part of the dynamic, right? Because we get into like relational cycles with our kids. And so if he and I have been arguing about his phone, and I've kind of been like, you should just be able to put it away. Like, why can't you? You know, he probably really has made a story of that in his head that I think poorly of him. So I'd be like, I'm really sorry. Like, I don't think poorly of you. I think that you're getting sucked into it, which is not your fault. It's designed for that. But I need you to come to the table with me, and we got to figure this out. That's like what I think by the whiteboard moment. And so that the parent makes the final decision, but it really brings him on board. Like, it's not me versus my son. It's both of us versus the problem, which is that the phone really sucks him in.
Right. How about the strategy of diverting them to something else? Hey, I'm in the kitchen right now making dinner. I can use some help. You're old enough to use the knife now. Come chop me an onion, you know, that kind of thing. Something that might engage them and pull them away of their own volition, maybe something enticing. Does it work at that age?
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely can. Start having a home where things are pretty collaborative. So I know I have this large age range of kids, and I do have, it was several months ago, but I texted my son and was like, hey, Esme is the name of his little sister. And I was like, she needs someone to help her walk the dog. He actually did say, hey, I just need 5 more minutes on this game because I'm on with my friends. Is that okay? Anyways, it was actually like a really nice conversation. And it made me think of, similar to what you're saying, like, I wasn't actually like caring how long he had been on the game because he hadn't been on that long, but that was not a fight from him. So I think that middle school parents, give it a try.
Right.
Like, they may want to chop the onion. Like, I think we underestimate how much these kids actually do want to spend time with us, especially if it's some undivided attention. Yeah.
We take things upon ourselves. For example, I was Mother's Day in my head, weekend is always the time to plant my flowers. And I was thinking, okay, oh my gosh, where am I going to find the time to go put all these flowers in and do all of this? And then I realized, why am I was watching my grandson at the time, and I wanted to get this done before he got home. And then I realized, why am I doing that? We can be doing that together. That can be something that takes it off of my plate and becomes like an engaging activity. So instead, I waited. I did get some advice from somebody. Why don't you do it with him? I waited, and we did this together and had the most amazing time. And we went ahead and planted some vegetables and some herbs and things like that as well. And he asks about it all the time. You know, how's it growing? You know, he takes ownership in it now. So I think that's another way to look at things. Like, your kid's old enough now to do certain things. Instead of putting it on your plate, share it. It helps both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think people will be surprised by how much kids want to engage with the family and really be invited into those kind of moments. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great about your flowers.
All right. Well, I do want to move ahead to our segment here called Moob Mail, because I did reach out in particular to a group of middle school moms asking for some questions
Yeah.
that they might want to pose to you and ask them to write in. And I did choose one in particular to talk to you about. And let's move ahead to our segment called Moob Mail.
Oh boy, it's that time. Ooh, mail's here. Your voice meets mine. From your heart straight to our trail. Let's open up that mail.
Okay, so this letter in particular from somebody who calls herself Sandy, but she says, "Hi, Laurie Ann. I love the movement, and my best friend and I listen together every week. So I'm hoping you will read this, but I'm changing our names to protect our privacy. My son, Johnny, and my best friend Mary's son, James, have been close since they were little. Now they're 12, and suddenly my son doesn't really want to hang out with him anymore. He says James is into different things and has different friends now, but it's honestly making things awkward between me and my friend. Do you push boys to keep old friendships, or do you just let things happen naturally? I don't want to lose her as a friend." From Sandy. Sandy.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll use the name Sandy. Yes. Oh.
She put it in quotes, so
my love.
we won't know who she is, but go ahead.
This is a hard question. Well, and I'm so glad that, Sandy, that you asked this, because this is very, very common, because often there's kind of a group of boys in elementary school, and maybe the moms are friends, the parents are friends, and then there's, like a movement in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, and boys, I would believe the son. First, I would believe Johnny, that indeed James is probably into different things, and not bad, but just different, right? And so there's a lot to talk about here, but I want to say to Sandy, I feel for her, because it sounds like maybe her friend is also like, why doesn't Johnny want to hang out with James? So I'm intrigued here. I would wonder if James minds or not, right? Because if both Johnny and James don't mind not being close anymore, then it's really not too much of a problem, because the mother's friendship could be very separate. But it is a transition, right? Because in elementary school, often I'll just say the moms, but the moms are friends, the sons are friends, and they do things together.
Right.
And so that might be what Sandy's seen, like, hey, let's all go to paintball together. And the boys are like, no, not really. And so I think this is a very natural, normal thing that happens. So I think that Sandy should be very kind to herself, have a lot of self-compassion. And so there will be some grief and disappointment there of oh yeah, we're not going to really do things as mother, son all together anymore. And that is something that happens in middle school. And I think she can have a conversation with her friend too. So what Sandy needs to do, as well as kind of get clear on what her values are, and if she has a partner, what their values as a family are. Do we expect our kiddos to be friends with people that they don't really enjoy as much anymore? We expect them to be kind. I mean, I think a lot of us would have the same values there, but really you can kind of get granular with it and figure out how to approach Johnny about it. And I think there is likely, she probably has gone to Johnny. I mean, she has, right? Because Johnny said James is in a different thing. So I'd probably get a better understanding from Johnny. Johnny's not responsible for the mom's relationships, right? So that shouldn't necessarily come in. But the mom could say, well, I kind of miss how we used to go to paintball together, and now we don't. And maybe Johnny's open to doing some of those kind of things, but maybe not other things. So I would just get a little more information, Sandy. I would recommend that. But yeah, I don't think pushing the friendship. I mean, I think Sandy already knows this. It's not going to work. I think that middle schoolers are not particularly good at tolerating each other if they don't enjoy each other. And that's going to cause probably friction among everybody in the situation. Yeah. What do you think, Laurie Ann? I'm sure that you have thought, being the mother of adult men.
Yeah, I do think that it is a very common situation. I really think you have to trust your kids' judgment. I know that there have been opportunities when my kids were maybe in that age group where I would say, hey, why don't you go to this and this party, this and this person's house? These are really nice kids. My friends' kids are all going to be there. And he would be like, I don't want to go. Why not? You should go, be with them. And the next day I find out, well, that party was raided by the police and there were things going on there that I wouldn't have wanted him to be there. So sometimes I think, and I'm not saying Johnny or James are doing things imperfectly or what they shouldn't be doing, but sometimes you just have to trust your kids that they are friends with who they want to be with at the right time for them. And like you say, you can have separate relationships with the moms and the kids, and you can't really force it. They're not babies anymore. So you can, though, reiterate that they should be kind to each other and treat each other, the boys, with respect, as should the moms. And again, we're in that transition phase where sometimes relationships change, things change, and you have to really be intentional and choose how you're going to deal with it. And if the moms really value each other and their relationship, they'll get past it and they'll move on, is really what I think. I wish we had more time. I have literally a list of topics because, like I say, this is a segment of growing up, both for the moms and the sons, that we don't talk a lot about. So I'm glad that you joined us today and we opened the door. And I think we gave a lot of moms, whether or not you're in this stage right now or you are heading into the stage, because it's really good sometimes to get the information before you're actually in it so that you have an idea to think about how you want to navigate it as you get to it. And we have a lot of moms with younger kids listening, so this would be so appropriate for them as well. So thank you for joining us today. And why don't you let everybody know, Bridget, how they would reach you, follow you, and learn more about what you do.
Well, thank you for having me on, Laurie. And this has been so nice talking to you and just getting to know you a little better.
Yeah.
So you can find me on Instagram. The account is Bridget.parentcoach, parent coach, all one word. That's really the best place to find me. And as of this recording, I'm right near 100,000 followers on Instagram. So it's kind of an exciting time. And this is the first place I've said it, but I am starting a podcast that'll drop this summer 2026. So that'll be Middle Years with Bridget KerMorris, and that'll be all middle school all the time, answering middle school parent questions. And so I'm really looking forward to that too. And Laurie, and I would love to have you, come on that.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Exciting news. I'm so glad to hear it. Oh my goodness, that's great. Well, keep us posted. We will let our audience.
It's been so fun to follow along with you.
Yeah, we'll let our listeners know as well. So keep us posted as you are dropping the first show and the promos, and we will keep everyone posted. I know they'll want to hear from you again. So that's really exciting. That's great. And we actually close our show the same way every week. So I think given this conversation, or as we say, MOOBversation today, it's exceptionally appropriate to say that here we are on the MOOBment, and we want to remind our listeners to hug your boys, trust your instincts, and remember that we're all boy moms, and those who love us belong is right here.